Hey guys, just want to drop in here real quick and let you know that there are some spoilers for Misery and Pet Cemetery in this video because we talk a lot about King's works and some of the other works that we've read. So, big spoiler warning for Misery and Pet Cemetery, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks, guys.
Splish splash, I was taking a bath. Immediate first thoughts.
What y'all think?
Horrible. Like, he really did take my absolute worst nightmare and write it down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he has a way of doing that.
Yeah, this is my third Stephen King book, and like every book, I'm like, this is worse than the last one, and like I was like, I just can't. After Pet Cemetery, like Pet Cemetery was dark, like a child died,
Yeah,
and after that one, I
and
was
came
like,
back to life
and came back to life as
and
a
killed
zombie.
his family.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bad.
After that, I was like, it can't get worse. Like Misery, whatever, and then it got worse.
It sure did.
Yeah,
Horrible.
that shit was scary, dude. I was reading that at night sometimes, and like the scene that got me was where he Annie went out to like buy something, or she went out to someplace, and it was the first time that he snuck out of the room, and he was like
Oh.
fidgeting with the lock, and like he heard her coming, and I was just like shitting my pants. Oh my god.
I was never like scared. Like my heart was beating. I was like
Yeah.
anxious, but like okay, like I keep comparing it to Pet Cemetery, but it's because we all read it.
Mhm.
Like with that one, like I'd be going to sleep and I would like imagine, like how the scene that got me was when like the guy when he opened the tomb and Cage was there and he had like moss and
Yeah.
stuff, but he said he thought his head was gone.
Mhm.
I would be trying to go to sleep and like picture that. But with this one, that never happened. Like I would never go to sleep picturing like Annie or something. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
guess it was like a different kind of fear. It was like suspense, but I was never
Exactly.
like afraid. Like at night, I was never like afraid.
I think that Pet Cemetery was a lot more unsettling, and also the ending was more satisfactory. I didn't like the ending of this one as much, but I think what made this one scary is that it was, like, plausible, like, it was too real.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was so grounded. Like the other ones have like supernatural elements in it. Like The Shining is like the Overlook is
Haunted. and
haunted,
stuff,
like
yeah.
it's its own being, and then Pet Cemetery obviously would come back to life and stuff. This is just like people being people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like so scary.
I think what got to me was when he was looking at the book and he realized just how many people she had killed.
Yeah.
Like that's insane.
Yeah, I didn't expect that at all.
Like that's a lot. Like it was crazy. And like babies, like that's when I was like, oh my
Yeah.
god, we're dealing with something serious here.
Yeah.
Like
No, like she killed her dad when she was a
Yeah.
child. Like crazy. No, one scene that what got me to like lose sleep the next night was literally the end of the book when he like shit goes down and he like throws like he like tries to burn her and he burns all the pages, and then he goes into the bathroom and he like knocks out, and then he wakes up and he's opening the door and he's like, is she behind the couch? No, is she behind the door? Like that scene.
and then he says, no, she's behind me. And I was
Exactly.
like,
I had to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night that night because I am an old man, and I was a little bit scared. I'm not gonna lie to you. That was definitely scary.
what was your scariest scene?
I think also the end where she wasn't dead, and then they were like, "LOL, she's not in her room." Yeah, like, I was like, "Great,
Yeah.
cool, awesome."
Oh my god! And then when he at like the very end when he opens the door to his apartment and like
She's
she's
there.
there and like cuts off his arms and stuff, and I was like, what is going on?
Oh my god. No, I thought it was gonna end there. And I was
Yeah.
like, wow, we really didn't get any closure. Like he
Yeah.
died. Like that's how it ended.
Mhm.
No, I liked the ending. I liked it because
I
like
didn't get it though. Like, what were the last 2 lines?
Oh, I
Too
searched
stupid
that
to
up.
understand.
No, so I searched that up after, and apparently, like that's like a little marker for Stephen King from like when and where he first started writing the book, and when and where he finished writing the book.
yeah. But I liked, besides that, like I don't really count it as the last line 'cause that's just like his thing. But the last line where it was like he was writing he was writing but he was like miles away or something. You know what I mean? You remember the last line?
Vaguely, yeah.
Yeah, he was like writing but he was miles away and he didn't realize that he was crying while he was writing or
I
something.
didn't remember.
You don't remember that?
I like the fact that like at the end he survived and he kept writing because like sometimes when I was reading it, I felt like yeah, like it's like a horror book, but like I felt this is gonna sound way too deep, but like I felt like at its core he was also like talking about his perspective from an author, and like at the like at a very central theme is just like what it's like to be an author, and
Yeah.
so I like the fact that like it was all this gore and like disgusting stuff, but then it returned back to just being about like the writing and being an author,
Yeah.
and I thought that was cute.
I think a big part of the book was him, like Stephen King, putting his own like experiences or feelings into the book. Like it was his way of like expressing that, I guess, which was pretty cool. Because like I really like the scenes where Paul talks about how he gets lost in the writing, or like he talks about like just like the different struggles that he has with the writing and like things like that. So it was kind of cool to like get a glimpse, I guess, into how King writes, because I'm sure he pulled from his own experience.
I think that's what makes Stephen King so like freaky to me, because I mean I've only read Pet Sematary in this book, but I feel like there are always elements that are somewhat autobiographical, and if he's like drawing from elements of his own life, that just makes the work so much more fucked up, because like I don't know.
No, exactly. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
and even in Pet Sematary, he drew from his own life because he was in that scenario, and his daughter barely escaped getting run over by a truck, and he was like, you know what would happen? Like, let me write down what would happen if she ran into the truck.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Like so terrifying.
I can't imagine being a parent and being like, let me imagine what would happen if my
You know
daughter
what?
was hit by a truck.
You know what I'm gonna write a book about today?
And then showing it to your wife and being like, here, look what I wrote. I was gonna say something I forgot. What was the scene for you guys that was like the first like oh shit moment? Like I remember like I was reading it and like there are moments that grossed me out for sure, but mine was when she cut his leg off. Like I was like this just went up a whole degree.
Yeah.
Like the stakes just intensified so much. Like what was that scene for you guys?
I think it was that.
For me, it was when she crushed the rat with her bare hands. Was that before the
my
leg?
That was before. That was
Yeah,
That was
that's
awesome.
when I was like, oh, he's in trouble.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
before she was like crazy, right? But before she's just like a kidnapper, but now she's a violent kidnapper.
Yeah.
She was like, and she just crushes it. She
Ew,
just
and
crushes
then
it.
when he said she was like licking her fingers.
Yeah, but she like licked the blood. Oh my, she like insane.
No, he took it too far with that one.
No, but also, dude, when she cut off his leg, she cut it off and then cauterized it.
No,
Oh my
I
God.
like physically can't.
Yeah,
I remember the line where he was like, "Oh, I moved my knee up, but I realized that my foot stayed in the same place, and all I was
Yeah.
doing was widening the gash." And I was like, "Oh
Yeah.
no, my stomach! Oh my god, that was crazy!"
yeah.
Oh my god.
No, you know another scene that that like I was like, oh my God, like this bitch is insane. When she was talking about, I think it's like later on in the book when she's talking about all the hairs that she put all over the place, and she was like, I found all of these hairs. How many times did you go out? It must have been at least like 7, 8, 9 times because I saw so many hairs out of place. And then she was like, oh, and you climbed up the stairs and you went down.
Yeah, no,
and
she
he was
was
like,
fully crazy though.
he was like, dude, I have a broken leg. I have broken legs.
Yeah.
And one of my feet are cut off. Like, what do you think I am? He was like completely paranoid.
"Yeah, for good reason."
What do you mean?
Like, she almost got caught so many times. She had a reason. To be
Oh,
paranoid.
okay, yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
What about the
Poor
scene
Annie.
with
I know.
the state trooper?
That one was bad.
That poor man. Stephen King really had to emphasize the fact that he was young and had his whole life ahead of him.
Ah. Like his wife was expecting him at home. Like because I really like that too about Paul, that he made Paul such like an imaginative person, where in every part where Annie was like particularly cruel, he would just keep imagining things. And that was just like, yeah, that was a lot. That was rough.
I love how like every time he's imagining something, it would be like so vivid. Like his mom
Yeah.
had been
Yeah.
talking about. That was so cute. Stephen King does that a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
He does that a lot, where he just has like a motif and he just
Exact-
puts it like in random places.
I love that.
I
And
like it too.
I really like it because it's like, I don't. Does that happen to you guys? Like that kind of happens to me in real life, where, like, no matter what situation I'm in, I'll like recall something from my childhood. Like I can be going through like some tragedy, and then I'll be like, oh my god, so vivid, right? Like, cause your mind just like has those instinctive thoughts, and like I don't know, that just makes it so much more like real, I guess.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that happens.
Yeah.
Like I'd say like a random memory, and I'm like,
Exactly.
I'm really going through something right now. Like, why is this memory
Exactly.
popping up into my head? Yeah, no, I get that.
And he does it with like music too. Like in Pet Cemetery, it was Hey Ho, Let's Go.
I don't remember that.
You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Like, he would be like digging up the corpse, and then he'd be like, "Oh my god, what am I doing?" And then it'd be parentheses, "Hey ho, let's go." Like, what?
So cute. Do you guys know? I told Mitch already, but do you know who Shazarati is?
Oh,
The person that he keeps calling himself, Shazarati.
I don't remember that at all.
But he was like, "I'm Shazarati to myself." I'm totally pronouncing.
Oh, Shekherazad? That was really Russian way of pronouncing it. Yeah.
It's like, oh, you mean?
Okay. How is it?
It's okay. So in Russian, I only know this because there's like a really famous. It's either a ballet or an opera. I don't know, but like I don't know, whatever. But it's Shekherazada.
Oh my god! So you were
Wow.
like whole ass pronouncing it while you're reading the book.
Yeah, because
wouldn't
I'm
think
really familiar with it.
I would my experience reading this book was I would get to that line and be like, and Paul,
Yeah.
I am my own to myself.
No, I would just be. I am my own to myself. Like I just skip it.
I would just do gibberish.
Wait, so do you know the story of like who she is?
Yeah, she was this like lady. I don't really know exactly, but she was captured or something. And then every night she would tell a new story, or she'd like, continuously tell the same story. I don't really remember, to her captor, and then that would keep her alive and stuff. So I was like, sick reference, bro.
Dude, I had no idea about that, so I was just like kind of lost the whole time he mentioned.
I would have searched it up right away. I don't know how you just kept reading without
I
knowing.
was. It was so short that I was just like, whatever. I'll get through this and I'll find out later.
No, I knew because in my high school we did the play. I think it's called The 1001 Nights or something like that, and that's like, I mean, it's probably like the same story, just different names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the same concept. So when he said that he was that to himself, I was like, oh, that's so cool, because like at first he was like prolonging his life for Annie, but now he's prolonging his life because he's interested in this book that he didn't even want to write in the first place, and it was just like he wouldn't let himself die for that, and I just thought it was so cool. And I don't know, I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I love how like his mindset kind of changed to, I got to keep writing this for Annie because I want to stay alive. And it was literally like, I want to stay, like, he was so invested in the book, where at first he was like, I hate Misery, I'm so glad I killed her off. But then he's like, I like he said, he fell right back into stride, like he felt at home writing about her.
He even doubted it. He was like, maybe I secretly have been like liking her this whole
Yeah.
time. Also, I like the Gata. He talks about like
The gotta, like everyone has their own gotta.
remember that part?
Like he was like, I gotta finish my book, and he.
Oh, the gotta, yeah.
And like the readers, like it's like the gotta finish,
Exactly.
gotta knows what happens.
Yeah, and for the writers, like I gotta know what happens at the end of the book, because like he said, like he starts writing a book, but he doesn't really know where it's ending.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
That was
Like
cool.
motivations.
I didn't know that writers wrote like that.
Yeah, I think Stephen King writes like that. That's what I said. I think he's talking from experience, because I've watched like a couple interviews with him, and I think he maybe has like a rough outline of his stories, but he just like lets the story write itself essentially, which is kind of cool.
Maybe we should each rate it out of 10
Mm.
and give reasons why. So Nicole, you can go first.
Oh, okay. Let's see. I'd give it like a 7 to 8.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I overall really enjoyed it. I thought the ending wasn't as strong as it was in Pet Sematary, but I still think that but I still enjoyed it. So like a 7 to 8.
Okay. What do you think?
I give it a 7 as well. I couldn't put it down. Like I was like, I need to finish this, but I wouldn't say I was enjoying reading it. like Pet Sematary, it was horrible, but I enjoyed reading it because it wasn't always horrible. You know what I mean? But this one, I was just like, wow, this is not a fun read. Like, this is a good read, and I want to finish it, but it's not a fun read. And also, I feel like Pet Sematary talked about so many themes of like deeper, like loss and grief, and like if you had the chance to bring this person back, would you or whatever?
You had the chance to change your fate.
Would
Would ya?
Exactly. Whereas this one was more just like, I mean, maybe if I was a writer, I would have like identified and enjoyed those themes more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I give it a 7.
I don't know if I'm biased, but I think I'd give it like a 8.5 to a 9. I really liked the ending. Like I really enjoyed it. Like it was good because he got to escape, right? But he still had that like trauma, which was like good to see like the consequences. He's not just like okay right after. But then he like finally finds his voice again to keep writing. It was like I felt like it was really satisfying. I really enjoyed it. And I could not put the book down, and I really enjoyed reading it all the way through. Oh, also like on that, like he Paul talked about how one of the reasons I think he killed off Misery was because he hated being labeled as like a popular author, and he wanted to show that he was like more serious author. And I feel like Stephen King also suffers from some of that, because like even before I started reading a lot of Stephen King, I was just like I don't want to get into that. Like he just writes like horror, and he just like there's no substance to it, you know. So I don't know. I feel he was writing like from the heart in that. I think. What do you guys think?
I was thinking about that too when I was reading that line, but I don't know, can Stephen King like escape that? I've only read 2 of his books, but I very much associate him with like stuff you buy at an airport. No offense.
Well, exactly. That's
so accurate.
well, I mean, that's like what I associated him with before, but like I don't I've read like 9 of his books, right? So I think I've seen that he's not just like an airport author, right? So I think that's exactly what he struggles with too, because he does put out so many books that people are like, they can't possibly be that good.
Yeah.
And he does have some bad ones, but like he has a lot of great ones. So that was pretty cool to see that him like talking about that within the book.
The Africa bird.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, I thought first it was interesting how like when he was a child, like that made him really sad. Like that experience in general, and like I don't know, it's not really something a lot of people think about, like when they're at the zoo, is you know,
Yeah.
they don't really think about like, oh, where is this animal really from, and like why is he here, and whatever. So I thought that was interesting, and then like when he started equating himself to the bird, I thought that was so cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know why he made that comparison necessarily. Like obviously because he was like captured and put in a cage, but like
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think part of it was that like he mentioned how when he was talking about the actual African bird and not just like the references after, he mentioned how what made him sad was that a part of what made him sad was that the African bird was like gonna die far from home, right? Which is why I think throughout the book he keeps saying like gotta get back to Africa or something, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's why he connected to it, just because he's like, holy shit, like my entire life, I've had a whole life and I'm gonna die here.
Oh, that makes sense.
Like it's depressing. Like it
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that was an interesting comparison. But also, like, thinking about Paul's life, well, Mitchell made me think of this. I feel like Paul reflected a lot on what his actual life subsisted of, and it didn't seem that great. So I thought it was interesting that he had this kind of opportunity to reflect. But then, like, he just goes back to being sad and traumatized. So, you know, even though he did have his African bird escape and got to go back to his old life, you know, I feel like he's always going to be in this kind of captured state of mind.
You got something to say?
Yeah, well, I was just thinking, like, that's a really good point. Like, he was like reflecting about his life, and I thought, like, maybe he's gonna go back. He was talking about like the smoking and the drinking and whatever, and I was like, maybe he's gonna go back and like, you know, be better or whatever. And then he just kind of went back to the same life, and it makes me think about like with a lot of these animals that have grown up in captivity, a lot of people talk about how you can't just put them back into the wild because they've like gotten used to their environment and like they would just not survive basically, or like they wouldn't be good, like they would just be in a bad state. And that just makes me think of like he's similar in that way too. Like he kind of got used like the new normal, like being an like he even talks about how they had this little routine where like she would wheel him out onto the porch every day or whatever. And I feel like obviously he didn't enjoy it, but like he adapted to it. So then being thrown back into his old normal life is maybe as shocking, you know, as like intense as it was to be thrown back into, especially since there were probably points where he didn't even think he would go back home, like where he would just die there.
Yeah.
So Interesting. That's a good point,
Well,
Nicole. That was very interesting.
I think that's why I like the ending so much, because I think that there was like the silver lining of he did go back and it wasn't quite the same and he still had all that trauma. So it's like he can never quite recover. But then when he's like fell back in love with writing that novel, I feel like that was kind of trying to show that like he still has that little glimmer, he still has that like silver lining in his life, and he's like gaining it back, maybe little by little, maybe not. Maybe he'll never gain back like fully what his life was or improve it all the way, but like he gained his life back.
I really thought like around the middle of the book before Annie went batshit, I was like, it would be fine if, he never escaped. Like it wouldn't be great, but he'd live. Like they seem to be getting along nicely. And then she had to crush a rat with her bare hands. So I was like, oh, that was cut off. That came to an end really quickly.
Dude, her craziness like escalated so quickly.
Yeah, wait,
Like,
I was also gonna ask. I thought that was because of something. Like I thought they were gonna say like something triggered
that's a
that.
good point.
You thought so too?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't think about it too much. I was like, oh, well,
She's not.
she's lost it. But like,
I think it was just that she was getting like she was losing it. Like Paul talked about how she started making mistakes. Like she had those like string of murders after he read the book. He read her like little, I guess, memorabilia about her murders. He talked about how like she had like all those string of murders and she was doing great, but then she slipped up and she had that trial, and then she was at the house and she was making mistakes. And then I feel like it was just like her just like even further descent into madness.
Yeah, but it just went like for the whole book. She was like steadily insane, right? And then it just went like
That's what
one
I mean.
page, and
No,
I was like,
think that it was building. I think it was slow. Maybe not slowly building, but I think it was building because like first she was like passive aggressive to him and like trying to keep herself composed, and then there was that scene where she smashed his knee, where she like just banged down on his knee, and then she killed the rat, and then she sawed off his leg, and then she
that escalated from kill the rat to sawed off his leg.
Well, it's she's crazy. What do you expect?
No, I just thought it needed like it would have been good if there was like a something that just like something, you know what I mean, like something that just triggered it.
I feel like what triggered her, some of that was his like steady defiance of her. Like he kept trying to test the waters every once in a while, and then she'd like lash out, and then eventually he became hopeless and was just like, I'm just gonna comply with everything until the end where he killed her. But up until then he was just kind of like, whatever, like I'm just gonna what's the expression? I'm gonna roll with the punches.
No, dude, but you don't understand. That was gradual. I mean, one thing that set her off.
Okay.
I don't mean gradual. I don't mean, it was a slow descent. I mean, the neighbors that she hated came and knocked on her door, and then she just went crazy, What do you think, Nicole?
Yeah.
Which side are you on?
I'm kind of leaning towards Mitchell's side here because I feel like I don't think Annie was dumb. Like, obviously she was batshit, but I don't think she was a oh my God, what did I do? My computer freaked out. Okay. I don't think she was a stupid woman. And I think she understood that Paul was like getting to know her and knowing her and knowing how to manipulate her. And I think that she like wasn't ready to fall for that or something. So she was like, well, time to keep him on his toes and, be crazy. And also this is kind of what I didn't like about the book super a lot is like Stephen King's, well, okay, first of all, he doesn't define if Annie has like a mental illness or anything, but like, I don't know, I feel like there was some kind of like contributing to this is like me being typical me and saying like this is problematic, but anyway, like contributing to the stigmatization of mental illness and stuff like that, not treating it super respectfully. But he doesn't define if Annie has anything, so I don't want to get into that. But obviously Annie is mentally unwell, so I think it was the combination of like the paranoia of having someone kidnapped and shacked up in your house, the knowledge that like he was getting to know her and being able to manipulate her, plus whatever mental illness she has going on. I feel like all of that culminated into her insanity.
It's also interesting how like a lot of the time she got upset was because she felt stupid. What do we think about that?
Or like she felt like she slipped up or something.
Yeah, I think that was just like she felt stupid and she felt like Paul was trying to undermine her. like trying to do his own thing, and obviously like that's stressful if you're in her position, because you want him to be submissive and like do whatever you say. So she just grew paranoid, and whenever she did slip up, I'm sure it would be frustrating.
Yeah. No, but even like beyond the paranoia, like when he made her feel stupid, like with the stuff with the paper, when he was like, "Oh, do you know what a ream is?" And she's like, "Yeah, of course I know what a ream is." Like she didn't like to be made
Okay.
fun of or to feel inferior. I was gonna say I wish we knew more about like her origin story and like see like if she was always like, you know, a little bit of one of those children or like if something caused her to snap, like what her childhood was, you know what I mean? Just like a little bit more depth to her.
Prequel.
No, I wouldn't read a
Ooh,
whole
Misery
book.
prequel.
I wouldn't read a whole book about her.
I would. I think she's a fascinating character.
Murdered a lot of
Sure.
people. There's a lot of content to be had there.
That's true. That's
Yeah, like I would love if Stephen. I kind of think it's really cheesy when authors do this, but if Stephen King published like her murder book as it's like a standalone book. But I think that like that her murder book reveals a lot about her because from the very beginning of the book, I felt that she was really solidified in her identity as a nurse. And, you know, from her murder book, as I will continue to call it, like we find out that that's when people started like suspecting her. And that's when she started making like mistakes where, you know, people could catch her easily. So maybe that's where this like fear of being underestimated began, or like this fear of being caught began, because she was like head nurse. So it wasn't like she was some random, like unaccomplished person. She clearly had ambition and she clearly like achieved a professional status, but then she was also like a crazy psycho murderer. So there's a balance.
And I think also contributing to like what you said about it being just like a crazy, like her craziness level just like
skyrocketing.
skyrocketed. She'd been murdering people since she was like 12. Like she killed her father, she killed her roommate, she killed her roommate's cat, she killed
Nicole,
a
watch
bunch
out.
of instincts.
It's recorded.
That is a legal
If
threat right
anything
there.
happens to you, there are tons coming.
There's proof.
But yeah, I don't think it was a descent because she like had a history, documented by herself. Like how crazy do you have to be to kill that many people and then be like, you know, let me make a little scrapbook.
She got the washi tape.
Oh
Anyone
my
have the
God.
glitter? Yeah.
It was probably so well decorated. I would buy her murder book if Stephen King made it.
We should write him. We should say, we have a great idea for you.
Oh yeah.
It's a 40-year-old book, so let's see if he likes to revisit it. Kind of going off topic a little bit, you have a little question here, which I think is interesting about the fact that he like inserted the passages from Mystery into the
Oh,
book.
yeah.
How did we feel about that?
I thought it was a little cheesy, but also like kind of a necessary. I feel like it was necessary.
I felt like it was necessary. I thought it was unnecessary.
I think.
Why do you think it was necessary? What do you think it added?
Well, okay, I think it added like a lot of things because, like, first the character of the typewriter became like became a part of the story because, you know, there was like a descent of the typewriter working like perfectly, and then we have like the filled in ends and the filled in letters, and then finally Paul is writing by hand. And I think that it shows like a progression of, you know, Paul's health, Annie's health, the stability of the situation, like all of that stuff. And then I think like the novel is Paul's lifeline. And we also see like the progression of his attitude towards the novel and towards his own life. And then I had like a third point. Oh yeah. And then he used like the novel as like his escape plan too. So I feel like in those ways it was kind of necessary to.
He used the typewriter in his escape plan.
True, yeah.
I found it pretty cool too how he would like lift up the typewriter.
Right, yeah.
Cool.
That's cute.
But as for the passages, like I think they were a little necessary. Like I liked seeing them too, and I liked seeing him like first fill in the ends and then filling in
cute.
the NTs.
I thought the change of font was such a cute detail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At first, I was a little confused because I was reading it and I forgot that the N key wasn't there. So as I was reading, I was like, why is this one letter so messed up. It's so annoying.
I had the opposite. I got like halfway through the first passage, and then I was like, "Wait, are the ends different?" And then I realized they were.
No, like I noticed that they were different immediately, and I was like, "This is so annoying. Like, why are they like?" And then I realized, I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool."
Yeah.
But I feel like the passages could have been a little bit shorter. I think they're definitely necessary, but there was one especially that went on for like five or six pages, and I was just like, "Listen, like that's great, but I don't really care that much about the Misery novel. I'm here for the novel Misery." And then one thing that bothered me, just because I'm like I can't read, when he was handwriting it and it was in cursive, I just
Yeah.
I
skimmed it.
I skimmed it
Yeah.
because I couldn't really understand what was going on.
I couldn't read
I
it.
got bits and pieces of it, but I never learned how to write in cursive and I never learned how to read it, so I was just kind of lost.
And his handwriting was bad.
Yeah. Well, he
Yeah.
was also in like bad condition.
No
Was it-
excuses. No excuses.
Oh my god. No, it was literally like your handwriting at like the end of an AP test where it's just like
Yeah.
chicken scratch.
Oh my god, that was a great connection though. I never even like put two and two together with like the deterioration of the typewriter and his condition and stuff.
That was so good.
Nicole, this is why we do this, because you teach us. You're lecturing right now, and we learn so much.
I'm the professor.
Exactly.
What was I gonna say? I thought the problem with them was that I wasn't super invested into the story. So I was like, if you're gonna include passages, either include enough that I can feel like I also want to know what's happening in this little meta story, or just put little chunks. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like if he would have really leaned into it, then I would have been like, oh my god, yeah, is Misery gonna die? And then also like, is Paul gonna die? And then it would have been really cool because I would have been like engaged, like really into both, and then I wouldn't be frustrated when it switched. I would be like, okay, I guess we're reading Misery now, like the Misery's
Yes.
return. You know what I mean? Whereas this time I would get frustrated when it would go from like Misery to Misery's return. I would be like, okay, I don't really care about this, but I guess I'll read it because I have to. Because I also thought there was gonna be like I thought that the passages were gonna have a little bit more like direct connection to Misery the novel. So I thought like if I don't read this, I'll be lost, or like I'll miss a big clue or a big Easter egg or something. But they really just felt like they were kind of there for no reason.
Yeah.
But now Nicole kind of convinced me otherwise. Like I'm thinking about them in different perspectives now.
And then I think I also read, I was looking up like discussion questions, and one of them talked about the bees in
I was gonna ask about that.
Yeah, ask. Go.
Well, I was just gonna say like there's like a lot of symbolism in this book in general, and like Paul, like the moment he met Annie, he compared it to like I didn't really get what he was talking about, like a mask or like something.
Oh yeah, like an African statue. So there's their direct connection. Like the novel takes place in Africa, and then at the end, like Misery's return and Misery, you know, the novel that we're reading, like they sort of blend together because Annie takes on the form of this goddess that he's trying to defeat. And also I think I kind of appreciated Misery's return chunks because it displayed, like we learned more about Paul as a writer and Paul as a character, because his very first attempt, you know, it's Paul the pop writer who's not trying very hard because he knows he's gonna like sell millions of copies anyway. But then I think throughout the chunks we do see him, well, I don't know, I wasn't super convinced, but I think Stephen King was trying to show that Paul was maturing into this, like this is his big work, like this is his masterpiece. So I think throughout we see also like him being more and more invested in the work too. So
yeah,
that was good.
Yeah, there was definitely.
I was literally like, wow.
I think if I like reread this, which I'm sure I will at some point, like maybe a couple years down the line.
I don't think I would ever subject myself to this ever again.
It was so fun. It was so entertaining.
It was so visceral.
It was great.
Yeah.
No,
it was great. I loved it. Anyways, if I feel like if and when I reread it, I'm gonna get so much more from that because I'll pay attention to like the Misery's return parts and stuff like that, and make a lot more connections because I think there are a lot of things. And maybe even some stuff that we missed.
I agree with Nicole that it was visceral. I literally had, when I finished the book, I finished the book, I used my phone for 30 minutes, and then Mitchell called me. It had been 40 minutes since I finished reading the book, and my heart was still like I physically felt things. Like, I think this is the book that has elicited the most, like, out of me.
Yeah, especially you told me after the scene with the cop, the one where he gets his head run over by Annie's
so awful.
Yeah, it was it was so graphic. I don't know, but I don't really mind those kind of scenes. Like, I think it like adds to the story.
Like,
don't
I
really
wouldn't
care.
take them out, but I also wouldn't read them again.
Okay, that's fair.
I remember I told Mitchell, I was like, this book is so gross. I was like maybe 100 pages in. And I was like, this book is so gross. He had to drink soap water and he peed himself.
Yeah.
And then he was like, it gets worse. I was like, it gets worse than this. How could it get worse? Then she cut his leg off.
She squeezes the rat. She cuts his leg off.
Yeah.
She cuts off his thumb.
No, but for real, the soap water, like that grossed me out so much.
Yeah.
That was horrible. That was worse for me than when she cut his foot off. Like, I think the grossest moments were the soap water and the rat. And then the thumb and the leg, I was like, this is Grey's Anatomy. They've done this before.
Yeah. The soap one was also just so very dehumanizing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like when he said that he saw the rag in it.
And when he drank his own pee, that was just like he was so desperate.
Ew.
Oh my god.
And I was like, he said it was warm and salty.
Yeah.
Ew.
No, I love that about Stephen King though. He's so good at writing those kinds of things, and like I don't know, maybe you guys don't enjoy it, but and I'm not sitting there like, oh my god, this is like wow, this is fantastic. But it like it does its job, you know? Like it does exactly what he intends it to.
Yeah.
I feel like he does a great job of that.
It makes you feel things that you don't want to feel.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I didn't read this carefully enough, but something that I thought was actually kind of inconsistent in the book is Stephen's like treatment of time and like flashbacks. Because at first, when I first started reading the book and I was like, oh, okay, great, this is about a writer, I thought it was kind of clever how, the actual plot of the book was mirroring like Paul's book about the car thief, that that book that Annie, because it was about like, there's like this car crash that was very traumatic, and I was like, oh, Paul is also in a traumatic car, wow. And then he kept referencing like this trial, so I was like, okay, something's gonna happen with a trial, and later we learned that it's actually Annie's trial, obviously. And Paul keeps saying like, oh, I saw her on the stand, so I was like, okay, cool, there's like this fragmented time, just like Paul's like masterpiece book is also fragmented time. But then there was like he dropped that, he lost that, and then it was very linear from then on. So and then that same kind of fragmented time thing came back when Paul was talking about how his thumb got sawed off, because he was like, one day I had no thumb, and then later we learned about how he lost his thumb. So yeah, when Mitchell pointed out that Stephen King writes his book in a very much like, okay, he has like a general idea, but he just kind of lets the story do its own thing, like that kind of came through to me in this book, and I thought it was a little inconsistent, but maybe I misinterpreted it.
I think he does that a lot with his books. Yeah, it is a little inconsistent, but I think it's like kind of intentional. Like in Pet Sematary, when Gage, the baby, dies, first he says, like he hints at it first. He goes like, oh, but when the baby dies 3 months later, or like, because Gage and the dad have this great
he
day
said
together.
Something like that was the last good day, or like months later he would look back on that as the last good day
that he and Gage ever had. Yeah. So I think he like plays around with that.
I was like,
yeah,
when I first read that, oh
he was like, okay, all right, cool.
All right.
But yeah, it is a bit inconsistent, but I didn't really mind it. To be honest, I kind of like how he jumps back and forth like that. It's like a different way to tell the story.
Wasn't there something like that in this book too? Something like, oh, like month later he would look back on that as like,
yeah, I think it was with the cops.
Yeah.
With the two cops. With
What do you mean?
They came to see him.
Oh, when it was like, oh, later David would tell his wife that like that was the most gruesome scene they've ever seen. Okay, yeah, I thought, but I was thinking about one from Paul's perspective, but maybe not.
I don't remember that. But yeah, I kind of enjoy how he does that.
I agree with Nicole, and I think the scariest moment was when they're like, there's no one in the bedroom, silly. I was like,
they're gonna be behind one of them. They're gonna be behind Paul. She's gonna like, she turned into the goddess. I don't even know, dude. Like that. That was terrifying.
No, that was fully the most scary scene.
Because when Annie showed up in his apartment, I was like, well, of course she's there. Naturally, but it was just his vision because she was dead.
I really like that about him, how Paul had like such a great imagination that he would like lay
See
out
it.
entire scenes in his head, and we like sometimes we wouldn't even know that it was him playing it out in his head until like they told us.
Hmm.
So that was pretty cool. I like that. It's kind of like a shocking thing, and you're like, oh, okay. Whew. Whew. Anything else to?
You're gonna have a lot to edit. That's all I have to say.
Oh, 100%.
Oh yes.
We've been going for
a
like
while.
40 minutes.
Yeah. It'll be fun. Thanks for joining, Nicole.
Anytime.
Like a podcast. So
For
cute.
real.